our culture, like it doesn't matter whether or not like who you have a preference to. I think a lot of it is accepting of like all sexuality now. So I think there's also a lot of confusion with sexuality with our culture.
Our world is defined sexuality as something that's to be strived for, something that is the icon of movies, of attire, of what feels good to do it. Our world looks at sexuality as, oh, you want to have that figure, you want to have that appearance, you want to do things that feel good because it feels good, because you can, not because anyone else. And that's what our society pushes.
Why?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of pressure because well, Christians, especially here, tend to get married really young, and if like you don't graduate with a boyfriend or girlfriend for a guy, then there's no hope for you, I guess.
They don't like being a third wheel, especially if all their friends are dating. They want to have either their boyfriend, their girlfriend, as they go out with their friends who are also dating. So I think there's the pressure of not wanting to be a third wheel, just wanting to be a part of a crowd, and maybe just wanting just someone just to hang out on a weekend or something like that.
I think that there's a lot of pressure because a lot of people don't want to feel alone, or like they want to be like, well, you know, I want to have a significant other because it's like, I don't want to go through life just all alone, or just be, end up being not with someone else to, share the rest of my life with.
From a girl's point of view, I think that it makes a girl feel like she's on an equal playing field with other girls. It just makes you feel wanted and desired, and sometimes I feel like if that's not the right relationship too, you're going to him rather than God for like comfort and security, rather than God, I guess. That'd be the person you should be on.
No, I don't think so at all. Because especially here at Cedarville, on this campus, even though it's a bigger school of up to 3,000, it's still small in a sense where it's just one place, one community. But as you go out, you're going, to different states, different countries, different cities, and different job opportunities will always might provide more chances and more opportunities than what Cedarville will, because you're just in this one campus. You'll actually be going out, meeting new people, and actually doing your job and expanding your horizons. So I think in a way it might get a little better because you're being exposed to more people than what you're seeing every day.
While I thought because I'm going into a military field, it would be harder to find, I would be very in a smaller world. I never had the fear that I was going to go if I didn't find something before Cedarville, I was going to go mine like 10 more years before I found a future husband. Because I trusted that if I was supposed to get married, God would tell me when, and He would show me who and when. So.
I don't believe your chances go down at all. I think if you don't find someone by the time you graduate, that's just because you probably were focusing on your studies instead of focusing on, finding a significant other, which can be distracting. So if you are focusing on your studies and you can't find someone, you're not going to need to know someone. I mean, that's not a bad thing, because I don't think that's originally what college is meant for. Because college is meant for study. I mean, it's not wrong to have something on while to find one when you're studying, but I think that's not the main focus of college.
I feel like that's like the idea is like that if you don't meet someone by the time you graduate, it will be hard to find someone. But God has someone for you no matter what. Like, He already knows whether you're going to meet him at college or not. But as a college student, you think, when else are you going to find another group of believers this big that you all are like united in your faith? And it's easy to think that this is where you will. But like in chapel yesterday, the guy didn't meet his wife till he was 25.
Yeah. As relates to the question about birth control being ethical for believers to use, and does it violate the sovereignty of God in our lives, I don't think that you can really go to scriptures and find a major case that says that birth control is wrong, that it's sinful. And I don't think there's anything that we can do that violates God's sovereignty, because by very definition, God's sovereignty well overrides anything that we do. And God can accomplish and will accomplish what He wants to, no matter what. And so I don't believe that birth control is unethical.
All right, on the subject of birth control, I just have a real short answer about that. And it's just, I think God gave you a brain and you're allowed to use it. And That matters with birth control.
But my concern is more, is the birth control method that's being used abortive in nature? For example, if you talk to a doctor and say you want to have some kind of birth control pill, for example, they will write you a prescription, assuming you're healthy enough to have that. And if you don't check on it, likely that birth control pill is going to be abortive in nature. And so I've done some checking with nurses and doctors and so forth, and there are birth control pills that are non-abortive. And that's what I would recommend. I believe that biblically that's the way to go, because I believe that birth begins at conception. When it comes to the issue of homosexuality, solid believers are going to disagree in some of these areas. We'll agree on the foundation, at least hopefully so, that the practice of homosexuality is sin. But when it gets beyond that, then it becomes an argument if we're not careful, and we can be so belligerent about our position, we lose the opportunity of having an effective discourse in our culture. For example, I would feel strongly about a homosexual being ordained in the gospel ministry, and I would speak to that, but not to the point that I would be unable to be able to talk about other issues relating to the subject as well. And I think if we're not careful within our circles, we get so passionate about something that we lose the opportunity of any respect or any authority and the opportunity to be able to speak on the issues. And so we can be passionate but compassionate at the same time.
I guess I would talk about homosexuality some on a relational level. I haven't had a ton of experience talking to students who have struggled in that area, but I've had some, and in every single case, there was some kind of sexual abuse during their childhood, and that's always just given me pause to think about the fact that you're dealing with hurting people in the midst of all this. You just have to be careful to speak the truth in love.
Engage couples, and often we'll get into this issue of what's right and wrong relating to birth control, and obviously I'm not trying to be too personal when I talk about those things, but my concern is more, is the birth control method that's being used abortive in nature? For example, if you talk to a doctor and say you want to have some kind of birth control pill, for example, they will write you a prescription, assuming you're healthy enough to have that. And if you don't check on it, likely that birth control pill is going to be abortive in nature. And so I've done some checking with nurses and doctors and so forth, and there are birth control pills that are non-abortive. And that's what I would recommend. I believe that biblically that's the way to go, because I believe that birth begins at conception, and anything that is abortive in nature is abortion. And so I would strongly recommend to an individual who's looking at birth control to make sure that it's non-abortive and it's possible for a person to do that. As to the question about what should a Christian stance on laws be that allow homosexual marriage and associated rights, I believe homosexuality, the practice of homosexuality is sin. I do not have an issue with the individual, in the sense that I'm going to hate that individual or judge them, because that's God's responsibility. Responding to laws can be difficult, because I believe that it is sin, and when a law allows for sin, legalizes sin, then that's a problem. And so my response to that would be that I would do what I can as an individual citizen to make sure the laws are biblical. And then if, in spite of my contributions, the laws state that, for example, homosexual marriage and things that can take place, then you live within that law, and then counsel people to stay away from the homosexual relationship, and then love them in spite of their sin in the process.